I think having a system, and I think it's understanding root causes of technique things and what they are, um, and really taking the time and understanding each athlete, um, one on one, what they're recognizing things quicker from when they walk out of their car and watching them walk down to the dock, or how they put their ski on, all those different things, and recognize those things really, really quick. Um, and another thing is the work ethic of a coach and what it should be to be a professional coach, and that's something I had learned from Matt. Oh, when he was still coaching us and coming up in Canada a little
What's up, everyone? Welcome back, or welcome to the Water Ski Podcast, the podcast that aims to promote the great sport of water skiing through the voices of the people in the sport: athletes, coaches, drivers, judges, amateurs and pros, current skiers and former skiers, you name it. This episode is with Cole Grant. Now, Cole is a Canadian water skier and coach, currently residing in Orlando and coaching at Matt Rini Ski School. Cole is a great friend of mine and someone who had a chance to spend some time with in Lafayette as I was finishing my journey and he was starting his at UL. Cole is also a very keen coach, and I had a chance to see how he started, or continued better, to polish his craft as he was involved with the water ski team in Lafayette. Now, Cole is a super interesting guy. We had a chance to take our time and talk about his early days. Some of the things he shared I didn't even know, and it was a true pleasure to hear them from him. Just a couple of quick announcements before we get into the interview. The first one is that the tournament I organized on World Water Skiers is getting some traction, and the tournament is called Anything But a Slalom Ski, and basically you can enter and run the slalom course using the zero buoy system, scoring system, but you have to run the course with anything but a slalom ski. So provided it's not a long thing where your feet are one behind the other on the same line, then you are game. The vast majority of entries so far have been with a trick ski, although there have been a couple of entries with jumpers. Now, I can tell you I tried with a kneeboard. That didn't go so well. I couldn't basically make it outside of the gates and before I crashed. But be inventive. Get on worldwaterskiers.com, create a profile, enter the tournament under the Water Ski Games, and let's see what you got. Currently, the first place is Rob Hazelwood with one buoy at 43 off, or 975, at 40 kilometers per hour. And if my memory doesn't fail me, that is 23 miles per hour or 25, something like that. So yeah, he's currently leading. No entries on the ladies' side, so I hope to see a few of those in the near future. The second announcement is that the Water Ski Podcast is currently accepting advertisement. So if you have a brand related to water skiing and you want to promote it on the podcast, just shoot me an email at Matteo@thewaterskipodcast.com and I can explain you how that will all work. The only thing that I ask to advertisers is that you have to have a promotion for the Water Ski Podcast listeners, whether it is free shipping or 10% off, whatever it is that you want to do to help the listeners, then you are a possible advertiser here. So reach out if you're interested in advertising on the podcast. I am stoked to share this episode 47, with the world of water skiing, my interview with Cole Grant. Enjoy. Boom. Cole, welcome to the Water Ski Podcast, buddy.
Thank you, Matteo. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited, a little nervous, but pretty honored and happy to be here and chat with you and catch up.
Yeah, well, that's first and foremost. And if it helps any, everyone says that they're nervous. And that's why we sort of start a conversation with the usual question. Before we get there, how are things in Florida? Obviously, you're speaking from Orlando area. I'm in Italy. How are things over there?
Yeah, it's we'll see. I think the kids are going back to school here soon, and we'll see what happens. As far as ski school, we've been a little quiet for a normal spring and summer, obviously, and just trying to, I mean, personally, not going out much and doing anything, and get this whole thing to clear as quick as we can, and hopefully, we see how it looks, and everyone around me, we're all safe and healthy, and we've got a lake to go to, so can't really complain.
Yeah. Have you been doing some skiing?
Not as much as I should for having a lake I go to every day and sitting in a boat, but um, we'll see. It's probably time to get back on my skis.
On your skis.
Ah,
So you're
skis,
giving
slalom.
the
No, no, no. Jump skis have been in the garage for the last few years. Every now and then a trick ski comes out, but just mostly slalom in these days.
no way. I would have thought of you as someone who just keeps taking pokes at the ramp no matter what.
I think you have that right, and I know that, and I know there's a part of me that isn't going to be okay doing easy three quarters and having some fun, and I also know I'm not going to train the right way to try to push the limits. So better be safe and keep them in the garage away from the lake.
Okay, I can understand that. I can understand that. Um, well, obviously, I asked that question because I know a little bit of your story, but now I want the listeners to get the story. So, how'd you get into water skiing?
I think it's a classic story. My parents, growing up in Canada, they were both in some kind of education when I was young, whether at a technical college or early childhood. And so we had a family cottage. And I actually had on my dad's side and my mom's side, and my grandparents were two doors apart at the cottage. So I spent the summer out at the lake. My dad loved skiing. They used to drive down to Minneapolis about 7 hours and go watch when there was the Coors Tour and watch some of those
Right.
stops. But we just, grew up on the water all summer. School holidays hit, and we were out there as children, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Wow. Yeah, no, the classic story. But I want to hear your story. So, first set, how old?
Oh, I don't remember my first set. I was in and on the water, whether it was my first summer, being dragged around in a tube, then on a skimboard, and then skiing. Um, Boom behind the boat. Uh, I don't recall it. I've got pictures of me being little and tying ropes up in the backyard and walking around with my skis on with my sister. And um, man, it's all a blur. But the pictures, I can remember some of it. I think I don't know whether that's from seeing pictures and making memories or them truly coming back. But yeah, I mean, I'm a November baby, so that first summer I was getting
You were
dragged
skiing.
around behind the boat in a tube at least, and yeah, that's all I
Solid.
remember.
Solid. Yeah, a lot of skiers don't remember their first set. Um, what about the first set you remember? You have a clear picture of maybe one of those early sets.
Ooh, um, yeah, probably maybe not a set, but some of the memories of being young and waking up really early with my dad to go out in the public lake with a couple of his buddies and sitting in there and all taking turns skiing, free skiing down whatever shoreline was calm that day. Um, yeah, that feeling and being out there early. The sun was coming up, and then I'd get to go back to the cottage and go hang out with my friends for the rest of the day and ski and play and do whatever else.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good environment that of the public lake upbringing as a skier, right? Like it becomes a little bit
from what I've been able to gather, a little bit more like the one that I've experienced in Europe, where yes, it's man-made lake, but it's club. So you take your turns to ski. You have things to do outside of the water. Like whether it's you know soccer, beach volleyball, foosball, swim, canoe, you name it.
Absolutely, and
So
those are my memories. And we had a club on the lake, and so there was a lot of families and a lot of kids, and we had um, a mile away from everyone's cottage. We'd meet, and we had the club dock where everyone would meet with a couple families owned boats, and everyone else could use them. And I mean, basically pay for gas and enough money to keep the docks and the course and the jump and everything going. But we'd ride our bikes or take our little tin boats over there when we got old enough, park, play, ski a little bit. We'd run down to the river and the rapids and go play, come back. Parents are gone. We'd just go figure it out for ourselves for the rest of the day, um, and have fun. But yeah, that waiting, taking turns, that community and club aspect to it, absolutely.
did you think it had an effect on how you grew up as a skier?
Um, yeah, a little bit. I think I don't know any different. I don't know if growing up on a private lake, how different that would have been. Um, I think I played a lot of team sports, which they all kind of went together and created that. I think the seeing all levels of skiing from an early age. Um, I was young, but and there was a lot of older kids, and hanging out with them, chasing them, getting pushed by them. Um, but seeing them take the younger ones like me under their wing, and we got to hang out with them, and we got to do everything else with them. That it was really positive.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, that's certainly one of the things that the club aspect can do, right? Like all levels, and it almost reaches beyond age. I know Will and Freddie spoke a lot about what they have in the UK with the levels. So you're 14 and you're competing against a 55-year-old just because you're running 28 or 14 meters, and like it creates the nice aspect of healthy competition in a way, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's how I got into tournaments actually, was through the clubs. We had a big recreational tour across the province that all the different clubs would host. And my mom was helping organize one at our club one year when I think I was 5, and asked if I could ski in it. And it's points for wave and points for this. And now if you can run the slalom course, then, right, it's a different game. But there was a place for everyone to have a go that day, whether it be on two skis, a slalom ski, trick skis, a wakeboard, whatever it was, to get out and be part of that competition idea. Um, and I mean, we were young and we skied. I don't know if it went good or bad. I just remember heading down and going cliff jumping or doing whatever else we would do that day.
Yeah, yeah, and probably that's the most important part of the memory, right?
Absolutely.
Um, Interesting. So when was there a moment for you? Because again, you were almost born into it. So as you said, you can remember your first set. But was there a moment where I don't know how to phrase this properly, but like it hits you, or maybe a performance you saw at a tournament, or something that made you, for lack of a better word, like hungry?
Um, you know, I got to watch the Pan Am Games in, I guess it would have been 1999, right in Winnipeg, right where the site I ended up training at for years later. We've got some memories of some of the performances there, pictures with Wade, things like that.
Ooh.
Just being, yeah. So I think seeing that, I had out at the cottage, had the old Masters VHSs on tape that for a rainy day and we couldn't ski, I was watching them. Um, and I think just that and being around it as I got into it more, definitely heroes and um, like Wade, getting to meet that, Craig and Jarrett Llewellyn, going to tournaments they were always at, and I think you pick people like that you wanna, they inspire you. Um, from a young age, I think it was just fun and having really positive people around that kept me going, wanting to get better, but kept it fun and encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I think we all had those moments. It doesn't even have to be one, but just maybe that period where you're exposed to what could be possible, and it just ignites it. For me, I said it before. For me, it was '99 Worlds and 2001 Worlds where I got to see Andy and Wade, and then Andy and CP, and just see those battles. You're like, wow, like that's unattainable, but maybe it's attainable. So let's go home. I want to train.
Yes, absolutely.
Before.
And we were lucky to have some really good skiers in history out in my area, and so you knew it was possible to come from Winnipeg or and surrounding area. Families like the Reeds, um, who had gone on and done it, and the culture just in Canadian water skiing is so rich that it's possible to come from here and do this. And um, I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna make it or not. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, yeah, no, of course, of course. And then you couple that with a good environment that you can do that in, and great things can happen. Now, you had a third, if I may say, variable in it, which you already alluded to. You were playing a lot of team sports. What did you play? What did you get involved with?
I played ice hockey. I played hockey growing up in Canada and lacrosse. So lacrosse, hockey, and skiing were my three sports. I probably started playing hockey, uh, oh, team organized hockey, 5 or 6. But I've got memories. I've got a guy I ended up working for at a hockey school jokes with me that the first time I showed up to his hockey school, I still had a soother in my mouth, and I was 2 or 3 years old trying to skate around and have a good time. And then I probably started playing lacrosse. I was probably 8 or 9, and got into that through people from skiing, actually through the Dobles.
Hmm.
Remember then? So Brett was a couple years older than me and played lacrosse, and so I went and tried it. And I played hockey and lacrosse both through high school, and for another couple years after, I kept playing hockey. I played junior hockey, um, and so it was always a balance. And there was times in the year, like spring, where hockey and lacrosse season used to overlap a little bit. Um, but then early spring, skiing got in there, and there'd be days I'd go from on a Saturday. I'd wake up early. I'd go ski. Have to go to a hockey tournament, play a couple games, then might have a lacrosse game that evening, and then would try and go get another set or two in at night. So it kept
What?
me busy, kept me out of trouble, and yeah, those memories of playing hockey and lacrosse and the that team atmosphere, being part of a team, um, those last a lifetime. I made some choices of when I got older of what kind of had to focus on a little bit more. Um, and I don't regret them. Kind of always wonder what if I chose this or what if I chose that. But um, getting to play hockey and a few years of junior hockey and elite lacrosse at a couple levels and still got to ski. So I managed to manage it and keep it balanced and was able to do all three of them for a while.
Yeah, that's impressive. Like we already speak about the challenges of maintaining two. Imagine three. That's unbelievable. Um, I mean, what a what if I may say, like what was it about hockey, and maybe differently about lacrosse, that inspired you, that like kept you in the sport? Like were there certain aspects of those two sports that you loved and then kept you in for so long?
I think um, hockey. I think it was maybe my first love growing up, and that same cottage in the winter we had shoveled a skating rink and a big rink out back, and same thing in the city. We lived on a little pond, and I would before school go out, play for a couple hours, and go to school in the winter and come back and do the same before I had real hockey practice. I think growing up, and my dad and the people around me played, and it was definitely what I wanted to do for a while. Um, and you just get into it where it's hard to quit. And every as I got older, um, through my teenage years, every year. hey, with conversation with parents, do you want to do it again? You want to play it? You want to push yourself? You want to play at that level? Like, what do you want to do? And so it always got left to be my choice as I got older, which I'm thankful for. Um, and yeah, that love, that first love of that hockey is I mean, it's Canadian pastime and it's the team stuff, but it's if I get to go home in the winter, we head out to an outdoor public rink and can get a few buddies to go just play and hang out and do that kind of thing. The same thing with club skiing, right? Of hang out at the lake all day and ski a little bit and be around people who have a shared interest. Um, yeah, lacrosse I found a little bit later than hockey, and I think we some really positive coaches in that sport from an early age who as it, hmm, we had a lot of team success early on and throughout, but it's a testament to the positive coaches we had and skill development and everything else like that went with it. That and we had the same team year after year, so it was a group of guys that we maybe changed two or three out, but out of 15 or 20, 12 were the same year for almost 10 years. So
Wow.
you're going to go back year after year and play with those guys again and um, enjoyed every minute of it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how your experience of hockey kind of paralleled in a way the water skiing, um, whereas really lacrosse was like the group, the group and positive coaching experiences, which I know we'll speak at some point in this conversation. Um, I was also interested, just maybe specifically about hockey or lacrosse. Like, did you enjoy the physicality? Because they're both very physical sports, or the technique, I don't know,
Um,
anything maybe more specific that comes to mind?
I I think yeah. I mean, definitely the both physical sports and growing up playing box lacrosse, even more so than the field game. Lots of American listeners understand, but definitely physical and definitely had my moments of and altercations in both sports. And I think it's the way that they're both sports where fundamentals, um, technique, and with good skill come to play, but a teamwork atmosphere where it takes five guys or 10 guys, depending on which game we're playing, to all do that together. And you can have the best, the most skilled player, but it it's not enough. And so how you manage that and how you learn to take on different roles, um, whether you're a scorer or defenseman, what your role is, and we learn that when we get older. But from a young age, yeah, physical, the speed, um, that at which the games are played.
Yeah, because I mean, I'll be honest with you. As you know, I am no hockey expert by any means, but it's always struck me about how it combines a lot of the most, like among the things that you look in certain sports, it seems to me like hockey has it all. Like it's technical, it's physical, it's extremely tactical. Um, it's team sports, it's on ice. There's a lot of components that make it a super complex sport. um, so no, but I can see that obviously the team aspect and something that you brought with you into your water skiing, as we'll get to it. Speaking of which, and I'm obviously alluding to collegiate water skiing, how did that come about? Like, what was your experience? What brought you to consider it?
I think somewhere through the last couple of years of high school, it was becoming choice time of what I wanted to do after high school.
Hmm.
Um, did I want to choose and that was choice time. What sport did I want to go in on, um, and do something with after high school, knowing university or college at some level from some sport, which one was it going to be? So even right through grade 12, I was still playing lacrosse, playing hockey. Knew the hockey probably wasn't going to get a scholarship. I'd kind of made that choice already and was playing like tier two junior, so not the top level anymore. Um, and so it was skiing or lacrosse that I was going to try to go to university for. Um, and I actually didn't go to school right after high school. Um, so I took 2.5 years off, played another year lacrosse, had some opportunities there. Um, then I actually spent a fall in Florida, living with Thomas Moore. And so my plan was to actually apply and go to UCF and hang out more and live with him. And um, kind of didn't really work and didn't end up there. And had looked at Florida Southern, and they had just started a lacrosse team as well, so had some stuff there, and had met with Roger at the time a lot and spent a lot of time with him. Um, but I had known people that had gone to ULL, and so the biggest conversation was probably with Brad Ronaldson. One summer out in Edmonton, hey, come on, you got to come, you got to come. But I'd known, Sabrina
Right.
Doe, Brett had gone there. Brad Perculis used to come to Winnipeg and coach me in the summers. Um, so lots of people. And ultimately, after a couple of years, where to go? My sister had finished high school, Jarrett Bull, so we kind of chose to go together. Um,
Yeah.
so the three of us started together, and it was amazing.
Yeah, well, lots of history was built there. Um, and I think it's proper to give a bit of context. I think we might have alluded to some of it in my interview with Ryan and Spav, but we were going, we were just fairly fresh of a national title, but with little to no guidance. And then guidance came, but it was more of like, hey, I'm here to help, but I don't know anything about this. Why don't you talk a little bit about your first year, first 2 years at UL? What was going on?
Um, I think looking back, I think a few of us came in not really knowing. Like I visited the school um, on my way home after skiing in Florida for a while. I'd already signed everything I was going, and it made a detour to stop, and I had to sign some extra paperwork that was getting lost in faxes or mail. So I just drove. Taryn and I drove to the school, signed it, and that was our visit. Like it was a done deal. So
Was
you
it
you
already
hear
on the red van?
no, that was before the red van.
That was
That
before the red van.
before the
Okay.
red van. So, um, yeah, we drove, and it was. When we got there, the day or two we spent, it was early December, end of November, and it wasn't that great. But um, met everyone, or met a lot of people, and I think when we finally started that first year, I started in January, so I didn't have a nationals my first semester. Had a spring, um, little less serious, little less what's coming, and I think there had been a lot of transition before I got there that I could tell, and so I think a couple of us came in not knowing how things had been done with ideas, and sometimes vocal, sometimes not, sometimes in the good way, sometimes in the bad way, of just to try to understand and learn and um, know what to do to help and to how to make this better. And I think sometimes a lot of us justified it and looked at it selfishly, but could justify it from a team atmosphere. Hey, we need this. This isn't good. This is bad. We need this. This is going to help. Well, yeah, it'll help us, but in the back of our minds, trying to make it in a way that it'll help the team. So there was lots of ups and downs, and I think um, a big group had left from that national title, or we're still hanging around, and I think it's a tough transition, right? You were there, Brad was there, Stina was there. Of we're not on the team, so we're going to help guide, but it's not our team anymore. So how do we balance that of I can't or we can't make you do this, we can't make you do that. We think you should do this, but you guys have to come together and do it yourselves. We're here to help, but someone take charge um, and run this thing the same way we did it. Um, and so, that was the first semester. Then I got to go home right away. So I lived in dorms for a semester, which was amazing, and I think different than a lot of skiers had done previously. And I met a lot of people on campus. Um, whether it was from the dorms or in my major, and made a lot of connections that way. Got to go home for the summer, you know, and come back for our first fall, where you really see what collegiate skiing is about. And I think that was a different experience as well, having started in January in a spring semester. And if I could do it again, I'd do it the same way. I got to get broken into college, haven't been out of school for a while, and learn everything and do everything, and come back. And now it's not, oh, and here's college skiing, like everything at once. So I think it helped blend that. I was also super fortunate to go the same time as my sister and Jarrett. So I had close people I knew for years around me, and quickly made, the team is amazing. And whether there's um, it's really neat of how international it is. So everyone's away from home. There is no, I'll pop home for the weekend. It's everyone's there
Right.
and there to support and help each other. And yeah.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting first year, and I had a chance to observe it, as you said, not necessarily from a distance, but also with the understanding that it couldn't have been led from the top down. It needed to be a bottom up approach with someone helping with the logistics, and that's where Ryan was in place. Um, and I remember very clearly, you remember it as well, that evening where basically your role as that person connecting the top and the bottom came into place at a restaurant. Me, you, and Ryan. That was a very special moment, especially as Mr. D, who was the founder of the team, sort of casually dropped by, not even connecting to us, just for dinner. That
Yeah.
was that was a good evening.
Yeah. And that was after I'd skied that fall already. Right. And that was the end of that, my first full year there. Yeah. I think we all met at Ryan's office and drove to Don Seafood together. And it was,
Yep.
and I know that conversation came up, um, in Ryan and Harry's interview of, that's where Ryan went and met with Mr. D, and same thing. So it's a little tradition. And yeah, I remember that evening when you guys approached me, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah,
Um,
and what a history! What a history! Because I think your time there, and I'm not just saying it was only you, it's a team effort and whatnot, but like it just so happened that it coincided with your years at UL that made that team reach a new level, whether it's performance, organization, new boats every year. Like, I don't have to tell you that you guys managed to find a deal to have a boat every year, whereas I did my whole career on one boat. So a lot of things changed during your time there. Obviously, a lot of it thanks to you and Ryan, but also I would say to a team that ended up getting together and moving together, right?
Absolutely. That boat, the first year I was there, the lift in the boat, and we were having issues with that boat. And so people were
Yep.
mad, like, and rightfully so, I guess, looking back. But and when you're in the moment, you definitely want to be mad. Oh, it's not pulling the way it should. This, that. I came here to do this. Um, and I think it's part of us. You bring in elite athletes, right? There is no one there who isn't trying to get to the next level and push themselves, and are all there for the same reason, and that is to get better. And at that point, when you've all been skiing at ski schools or clubs where you've got everything set the right way, that's what you expect, and that's what you expect of it. And so, yeah, looking back, were there some heated conversations that probably weren't right that went on? Yes, but I think it also, um, allowed us to, as a team, to take those next steps. Um, After that conversation and that dinner at Dawn's, the next thing I did, when before I told you and Ryan yes, I said, yeah, I'll say yes as long as the rest of the team's okay with it.
Yeah,
Right? We went
that's true.
and we met in Ryan's office, and I said, hey guys, I've been asked to do this. Here's what you can expect of me, and laid some things out. I'll never ask, something of you I won't do myself. If I ask you to do some work, I'll do twice as much. Um, that's how I plan to lead. I'm going to walk outside. take 10, 15 minutes, however long you need. If you guys don't have to tell me who said what, I'll come back in. If you guys agree and are okay with it, I'm in. And if not, no hard feelings. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm just as happy to be a part of the team. Which was, I mean, I was sitting outside. I didn't know what was going to get said. Um, but I think those hard conversations and the fights made way for us to have real conversations and stop looking at problems and start looking for solutions.
Yeah, yeah, which is a tough thing to do if you are involved, as you said, right? Like one thing is if you're detached or in some way, right? Like you are observing and you assess the issue from far or from top, and you go, okay, yes, there needs to be a new ramp or what have you. But one thing is you're trying to do that and you're in it, right? So it becomes really hard to discern what's necessary from what's sufficient and what's needed. And I think that transition period is what allowed you guys to bring really the Raging Cajun team to the next level. Um, Now, more personally to you, you are now in a team environment of a sport that, despite you grew up in a club atmosphere, it is an individual sport. What did was it an easy transition? Was it a fun transition? How was it for you?
It was, for the most part, fun. Um, and I don't think I understood how challenging it was until years later. Um, that whole being in it thing, like head down, do the work. This is happening. I don't know whether it's easier or hard or whatever at the time. You just know you got to do it. Um, but an absolute blast. And I think, from that first year, we started to make a culture shift to get back to really being team first. Whereas it had been a little bit, um, what's what's best for me makes me better, which then is going to make the team better, right? And it's
Yeah,
how do you balance that, because it's not wrong, but it's a balance of both. And so, um, when does you doing what you need to do to improve and do this help the team, and when is it I'll sacrifice something because it's not going to hurt me as much, but this is going to help the team more. Um, and yeah, so I think it was different, and to know, maybe for me, coming from a couple different team sport backgrounds, I'd been through the ups and downs of working with people at an elite level of sport. Um, and so I'd been through a lot of it. Like, there was nothing new as far as those conversations or those fights we'd have in team meetings or whatever that I hadn't seen 10 times worse in a hockey dressing room or in a hockey practice where
right,
gloves get dropped because something's going on. And I had come from where it would happen, and then we all go out that evening together, and it'd be good. We'd have settled it and whatever. And I think, um, I brought some of that with me, and I was unaware for a while of how other people actually deal with that stuff who don't have those same, um, experiences, which took a little while to tone down and do when needed only.
right.
Um, but but yeah, team skiing was an absolute blast. That was, it was a great 4 years, and I grew so much from it as a person, as a coach, as an athlete. Um, that yeah, incredible.
Give me, a handful of moments, memories from your collegiate skiing days. I'm assuming they're going to involve nationals, but not necessarily. Just some moments that stuck with you. Maybe since you laid out a few categories, maybe as a coach, maybe as a skier, maybe as a person.
I think going through those, hmm, huh, that's tough because I think they all kind of came together.
Hmm.
But starting in nationals, the year, I mean, 2015, the year we won. Um, and you know, I went out. We were ahead. We had won all 5 events going into men's jump, and we pretty much needed 4 jump scores, like 4 landed jumps, and it was done. And that, I went out fourth, and that jump set, I know we were jumping 51, but I felt like the boat was going up and down the lake at about 100 kilometers an hour. Like that jump set was over before I knew it. Like 3 jumps done. All right, it's done. Um, and that team win. And I remember skiing in, and the first person I actually saw was Scott Greenwood give me a big hug. Um, but then having the team, everyone there. Chris went out, won men's jump, and then we won team as men's jump event, which is, I mean, it was amazing. Um, but that nationals, I don't even know if it's the win that's special. Like it's okay. We had Benny and Dane jump and trick, and I got pictures of Benny on site at 6:30 in the morning going through his trick run before he's got to go and do it. And the amount of
Oh, you
effort
got to
those
share
guys
those
put in.
with me, man.
I'll have to find them because it's things like that you go. It was a huge culture shift from that first year of Benny would go out to Lake or Dane would, and they wouldn't slalom that day, and they go jump or trick instead because needed more practice and help on it, and it was going to be more for the team. Um, and having Marianne Tyler there was super special. Um, that's one. I think another one would be the year before at Bennett's. I saw the team really start to change and come together. I think holding Fleur de Ski back at Airport Lake for the first time is what really was the first moment that everyone saw what we were doing and that it was working and that together we'd accomplished so much already just by hosting a tournament back on our lake and not having it
Yeah.
hosted somewhere else. Um, I mean, those are three. Then there's a lot of fun ones. Um, the boys, depending on where nationals were, we'd all get hats from whatever region we'll say we were,
Right.
um, and stuff like that, and all that stuff. And I think, but yeah, hosting a tournament again. Then that first year, that second year of mine at Bennett's was kind of the progress of it, and then 2015, it was just kind of you saw it all start from nationals through the tournament through the next nationals of people coming together. And that another story, that 2015 nationals, we had something happen with we'd gotten to a point with the team where if someone did something that wasn't what they were supposed to do, whether I'm not talking on the water, I'm talking off of it, of hey guys, we don't have that many team rules, but like for
Yeah.
a reason, so you can't break them, but there are a couple. And we had gotten to a point where I wasn't the one even enforcing them. Like other people in the team were holding each other accountable. And I think when I started, that was the whole mission. Like I'll try and do more work and do everything and be an example, but I don't want to be the law and hold each other accountable. And we saw that and we saw the results from it. Um, so yeah, the work that went into that nationals, we spent time on site beforehand and a lot of time together that semester of taking trips and loading up for long weekends to go somewhere to train for a few days on a different site and things like that.
Yeah. No, I can see that, and certainly, even if you were willing to be the enforcer of the law, it's not as successful of a culture as the skiers feeling, that they need to keep each other accountable, just because it's a lot of skiers, a lot of events throughout the day. You can't be everywhere, and you have other things to do on top of being there for the skiers. Something that other skiers might not have to do, but needs to be done in order to even just be able to compete. Have you signed that form? Is the van here? Like, is the dock, does she know when she has the trick? Like, there's so many things that you have to have on your radar, that like, if the team truly feels that this is a joint effort, it lends to better results. And I can certainly resonate with the national championships that we won as well. um, Was it hard to leave Lafayette?
Um, no, and it was a great 4 years, but no, I knew kind of what I wanted to do and where I was going to go, and kind of partway through university, kind of with real plans kind of made. And so I think the hard part was I don't have that. I mean, I know people that are still there, but I kind of the only way I could was kind of not completely cut ties, but I had to turn it over. Like that's not my ship anymore. I'm not on it rowing, so you guys got this and go with it. To kind of make a clean break and not have an overshadowing any kind of presence of, well, this is how Cole did it, or how this is how I would still do it, or this is what I think you guys should do. Like the culture had changed so much and was a strong, healthy culture that we see it today still, and
Yeah.
that we had to trust that the culture actually had changed. And that was, those first meetings, what I we had spoken about was culture. And so when I saw the culture change, I kind of not cut ties, but got on to the next chapter of my life and get to still talk to a lot of the people there, and offer help when they ask for it, but only when they ask. I'm not gonna butt in and say do this, do that. They got this, and I have to trust that. And for me, I was ready, and I was 20. How old was I? Like graduated high school at 17, in 2.5 years. So I was a little bit older than a lot of people already, and so I was ready for the next chapter of my life.
Yeah. No, and I think two thoughts that come to mind as you said that. I think in a way you could see why when you got there, some of us were a little bit hands off or trying to be hands off, kind of because we were feeling what you felt at the end of your journey. And at the same time, I think it was possibly easier, like the culture that you guys created and then you saw potentially continuing, that wasn't in place when we left, just because it had to be all, it was a different system, solely relying on us, no overseeing from the university, that we felt like that had we let go, it would have, who knows where it would have gone, but we also needed to let go for ourselves. So I think in a way you understand where we were staying, in those years.
Yeah, and looking back, I know people I was around, and some of those arguments and stuff. We're like, "Well, I mean, it's not theirs anymore, and they gotta like, come on, let us do it. We can do it. Like, come on, come
Yeah,
on, come on." But we weren't ready for it, and it was so it's a thank you for not, and thank you for dealing with our young, hard-headed nonsense. Um, because we weren't ready for it, and the team wasn't ready for it.
yeah,
And Ryan's learned so much and understands it now, that it was it was you and Steen and Brad and Ryan trying to run things and keep things going, and none of us got any of the work behind the scenes.
yeah,
And that kind of got brought forward and opened up and divided them around people, where we got to actually see it and own it. But there was systems in place that it'll work, and it'll be okay. And Ryan's kept those going, and from his knowledge of what skiing is and what we need, and things like that. And there was still
how to
times through.
obtain it, because
e-
it
e-
took a bit of time for him to also understand how to obtain things.
Exactly, right. And now when I left, it was hey Ryan, we need this and this. Okay, I'll have it to you by, go pick it up from here on Wednesday. Or hey, I've called
Right.
the store and it's ordered, and here's the invoice number to give them. Okay, thank you. Like, I
Yeah,
can do that. I can
exactly.
do my part now. And and so yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think in a way for you personally it was good that you were able to cut ties. I know it's a big word, but like in a sense, like sort of say, okay, bring closure to that experience in order for you to be able to move on. And I think again, doing doing that, knowing that there's a system in place now that is well oiled and the moving parts are moving together, made it certainly easier. Um, so what happened afterwards?
So I actually, the day I wrote my last final, the next morning I jumped in my or packed up, got in my car, and I drove to Orlando, Claremont, Florida, um, and drove back a week later for graduation, and back to Florida, and here since, at Matt Rini's ski school. I've been working for him and with him for, I guess it's been, we're coming up on 4 years since I graduated. Yeah, coming up on 4 years. Um, and happy as could be.
Another degree, roughly 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. I see. I could have another one by now, but that might be my biggest accomplishment and surprise to people is it was a 4 year degree for me.
Now, well, I mean, like that experience there possibly could have earned you another degree just by what you've learned in the last 4 years. I mean, Matt is a super experienced coach, and just the turnaround of athletes of all levels must have made you a better coach of water skiing. Um, so what and that's what I really want to talk to you about as well, like coaching, right? I know you take, coaching can mean different things, but specifically in terms of helping a skier become better on the water while you're in the boat talking to them, what are some of the things that you've been, let's just say, yeah, let's just say improve at? Because I know that at UL, a lot of skiers trusted you to be in the boat and helping them out. Um, what have you improved on since, or maybe some of the things you keyed on to in the last 4 years?
Well, it's funny you say the last 4 years. The first couple years, and still, like any chance I can be in the boat with Matt, I do. And that's how I looked at the first 2 years of however much busy I was in work and whatever I was managing, that I was getting a degree in water skiing. Like I was going
Yeah.
to learn so much. Um, and I was getting my master's basically. And, I think it's the things I've grown on are, hmm, I think having a system, and I think it's understanding root causes of technique things and what they are, um, and really taking the time and understanding each athlete, um, one on one, what they're, recognizing things quicker from when they walk out of their car and watching them walk down to the dock, or how they put their ski on, all those different things, and recognize those things really, really quick. Um, and another thing is the work ethic of a coach and what it should be to be a professional coach. And that's something I had learned from Matt. Oh, when he was still coaching us and coming up to Canada a little bit in the summers and things like that. Um, and fourth is probably communication, how to speak clearly, um, which is still, I'm actually not a great communicator through text, email, even phone calls, and it's tough for me, but have worked at it. But yeah, I think it's understanding each athlete and not what not what they say they are, what they want, but knowing why they're there. What do they really want to accomplish, and how can I help them do that? Um, and kind of coaching off principle more than theory or anything else like that.
What do you mean? That's an interesting coaching by principle as opposed to theory. Can
So
develop on that?
on I guess on a technique standpoint, right? Like people like to talk about theory, the theory of this, the theory of that, but maybe law is a better word, or principle of what if this happens, what is the result? And we know a lot of those things. And so instead of, hey, in theory, if you do this, then this might happen, and we can move this way and that way. But what are the handful of maybe basic water ski fundamentals or principles or laws that if you do this, this will happen. If you
Hmm.
don't do this, this will happen. Um, and not getting so lost, and it's a balance, I think, of the idea of kind of question everything and always be open and evolving and always learning, but having sound principles that everything we do is based on. that
Hmm.
this is there, you can't question this. If you do this, this is the result, and you can look on any top ski or any of this, that this is something that is there.
Yeah, it seems. Ah, wow. It sounds a lot like what Jay told me last year in his interview on coaching. That you have to, like, a theory is constantly evolving, and you have to have one in order to be able to coach. uh, but knowing that eventually it needs to be adapted. You know, like you have a tall, skinny skier who's twitchy, and a shorter skier who's strong but not as reflexes. Like, and how do you maintain those fundamentals with these two completely different athletes in front of you? I think that becomes part of the craftsmanship of coaching, right?
E- exactly, right. And whether it's tall and short, or whatever it is, or athletic awareness or ability, and different things of balance and all those kinds of things, and every person is different, and everyone's going to ski slightly different. And how do we, not take them and shove them in a box, and this is the
Mm.
only way to do things. But okay, there's 3 or 5 things that we know you have to accomplish, and how do we work within those principles or those laws or those facts, and fit everything else and adapt for you to still accomplish those things.
Yeah, yeah. That's the for you bit is, is the key in my opinion. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I thought I lost you. Um, yeah, and what are this is a tough question, but I want to throw it at you because I think you can take it. What are some of the things that you think you're doing very well as a coach?
um I think, and so I get a lot of different athletes and situations, right? We've got people come ski for a day and take 2 sets and leave. And then, I've got athletes that I see, whether I see them every day or I talk to them every couple days, and have an ongoing thing. Um, I honestly, I don't know if it sounds corny or what, but with all those athletes that I work with regularly, I think they all know how much I care.
Hmm.
Um, and that I'm there to help. Um, I will tell them what they need to hear, sometimes not what they want to. But know that I'm in it with them. They're not alone. I can't do it for them. Um, but they don't have to do it by themselves. And so I think, posted something the other day, is if knowing who, I don't know if who's the right word, but knowing who I am and what they're going to get every single day, whether they ski good, bad, they're on, they're off, they've got high energy or low energy, it's tournament day or we're months away from a tournament. They know what they're going to get and what they can expect in me, which allows them to be safe and feel safe and not worry, oh, if I ski bad today, or if I make a little mistake, Cole's going to shout at me today. Or is he in a good mood or a bad mood today? Is he going to be nice or mean, or what? I think it's that being consistent of, this is who I am and how everything's going to go. Are some days going to be tougher? Yeah, but I care, and I'm going to be consistent day in and day out.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's a great. I mean, obviously, the importance of the coach athlete relationship can be overstressed, right? I mean, that's just like such a crucial component of all those things that together bring good performance. Um, but certainly in skiing, which is a sport with a lot of variables, like sometimes even the well experienced, such as the two of us, find out new variables or start really stressing onto some that we weren't even considering before. So having that consistency with the coach removes that variable, removes that sort of like, oh, what's going to happen there, right? It allows to simplify just even a little bit a complex sport like water skiing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So we said, well, what you think you work well, and I'm going to ask you the opposite now. What are the things you feel like you're still needing to improve? And obviously, you can say everything, but like the one that you're working on in your coaching.
Um, I think who to give you a couple. I think making, that same thing. I think what I do well is a consistency, but I think having continue working on that consistency and knowing, okay, am I always present? They know what they're going to get me, but am I present every little thing? And something I've been thinking on and working on is listening. Like, do I really listen? I think one of the biggest things in a good coach, and I was reading a book, is attributes is good listener. And I
Yep.
can hear you and not just hear you and respond, but here's what you said. Okay, is this what you meant, or is this over here what you actually meant by saying it? And what feedback do you need from it? Um, and I think I've let go of needing, not power. Like, power is the wrong word, but always knowing that it's not a boss and employee relationship. Like, that is not what it is or can be at all. And there's going to be people who, I'm still young and I'm not that well established, who maybe question what I say or don't want to ski with me or do different things. And that used to bother me a little bit. And I've been able to let that go, which I think is has made me better with all the people who do ski with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. And I think the challenge, which oftentimes some other stakeholders might struggle to grasp, is that coaching is in a way a performance as well. Like, say, for you to be able to stay consistent, if you deem that as an important thing, with your athletes, you have to be able to do it. It's a skill. I mean, you have a life, you have relationships. You show up to the lake one day and you get in the boat, and you may have thoughts of like, what, I don't want to be here today. But if you want to be consistent, you have to find a way to do it anyway. In as much as the skier who doesn't feel particularly on top of their game on that day still has to run 39 or jump whatever to make it to the next step. um, no, I think I think the difficulty of coaching properly is oftentimes like overlooked. Not by coaches, by others.
But
you
yeah,
know,
and I think, and you said that, and it is absolutely a skill to be consistent. And whether we're at at the Worlds and we're on a starting dock, or depending what it is, and to look so calm or be in the boat pinning, and I'm like, oh, you look calm in the boat. Oh, good. That's what I'm trying to work on, and that's what I'm trying to
right?
show. But there's all those things going through, but you can't show them, and you've got to be steady. And I mean, a few weeks ago, I had a couple people, I mean, they're 20, however, athletes skiing with me, and one told me I was an optimist, and the other one told me I was too real and almost and a realist. And it's just perspective of where they're coming from. Of, no, this is how I am, but you're just over on this side more, and you're over on this side more. I'm right down the middle. You just look at me from a different perspective, and that and that's how I took that. Of like, yep, I'm consistent right down there, and work on being calm and um, steady. I think is my word for
Yes,
it.
that is a beautiful word in this regard. Yeah, steady is appropriate. Yeah. Um, what are so we talked about some of your experiences in at UL as a coach. If you wouldn't mind sharing a couple of more, maybe say recent coaching experiences, say maybe that you're proud of.
Um, See, so this is, I think, someone somewhat difficult to answer, right? I think it's tricky where the most, I guess, obvious ones that come to mind are when athletes ski well,
Right.
and you go, yeah, look at, they accomplished their goals, and you're proud of that, but that's their hard work. and to and so it's a balance of, yeah, did I help? Yeah, you know what I did, but that's theirs, and you can't take, saying you'd help them or you did it or that's yours is just doesn't sit right or feel right to me. Um, but I think, I've had some around me grow a lot lately, and I had one. How about this for one? One the other day, someone was at a tournament and skiing, and we'd talking, and they went away to a tournament, and they texted me after how they skied, and then told me what they did and what they had decided to do, and went, I made a decision for myself. Like I did it. I didn't have to get too many opinions and this and that and knew what to do. I decided and I did it and I skied really well. And I think that's kind of something that stuck with me from one of my classes, one of my professors from the personal training at UL was, the best personal trainers create, whether you want to call it a culture or a routine, that eventually their client, maybe it's losing weight, maybe it's getting stronger, whatever it is, no longer needs them because they've set them and helped them grow and build them up to the point that they're capable on their own. And that's
Mhm.
something I kind of stick with me. Not that athletes are going to leave or anything, but that when they go away to a tournament by themselves, are they going to be okay? And I need that answer to be yes if I can't be there or if someone's not there with them. So hearing that was one. Um,
That's a
yeah,
huge one. That's a huge one. You know, like, um, I mean, in my profession is the same. You know, like in the helping relations, like say whether it's clinical psychology, sports psychology, whatever branch, you do want to create um, independence in the client to where they are autonomous after they've done the work with you. And I think in coaching is slightly different, as you said, like they don't have to leave, but they are also an independent agent. And it seems to me that your approach, especially as you said, as of recent, to really actively listen to your athlete, where you're giving them reps to reason on their own skiing, right? And by giving them reps, you're making them more independent in how they think about their skiing, and of course making decisions, rather than as soon as they're not even sank in the water and you're already standing up telling them the teachings, right? Like it's the classic, what do you think? And then wait and wait and wait and wait and listen and listen and listen, and then of course you're going to give the coaching. But I think a lot of it, and I would also argue, the better the athlete or the more the experienced the athlete, the more the what do you think is crucial, right? Like you have to, part of good coaching is just listening to what they're bringing up.
yeah, absolutely. And it's, we like to use it being coached or taught or all these different words for it. And a word that I had pop up recently was facilitator, right? Helping
Yep.
them facilitate their own learning, their own improvement. Um, and that's exactly it. What do you think? Okay, this happened. Okay, what have we taught you? What do you know that if this happens, this was probably why it happened? Okay, so, and then they ask the question, okay, did I do that? Oh, yeah, you're right. I think I did. I felt a little bit of this. Yeah, I agree. All right. So let's fix that. Let's focus on that area because that's going to solve what you felt is the problem. We've backtracked and have the real solution, the real root cause, and having them be able to work through a little bit out of their own because they actually understand um, what and why they're trying to do something, not just the outcome that they're getting, and to start to be able to coach themselves if they're on their own a little bit, and to make those fixes, or they run a pass and it's in a tournament and you're standing in the dock with them, they run their first pass and it's not great. Okay, do they have the right self-talk, and can they refocus on, oh, this was a little off, okay, I'll do a better job of this? Can they do that between passes and know what and why, not go, uh-oh, this is going to be a bad set because this felt a little off, I don't know what to do? Like that's
Right.
not that's not going to be productive and helpful in the long run. um and yeah, that knowing when and how to give feedback and what's required, and sometimes less is more. Sometimes they need to have a little break or a longer talk. um and sometimes it's being confident with newer athletes or newer skiers, that to not allow them to skip steps
Yeah.
of, they want to, whether they're brand new, open book, here, I'm coming to you, let's start writing this book. And okay, here's the basics, do this. Okay, well, after the next pass, let's move on to something new, because you think they want to learn something new. And it's like the confidence to go, nope, we need to work on this more before we move on. We're doing this again, whether it's another pass, another set, another day, um, to build a foundation and not give in to wanting to give them more information to keep them happy, like they're learning more, like,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that
I
makes
think
sense.
it's such an easy mistake to make, right? Because on one hand, you can easily see how they're right. They want the information. That's why they came to you, and yet they're not able to assimilate all the information yet, just because they're not as experienced, right? Um, I mean, if I'm coaching someone who runs 39, I could speak either a whole lot or not as much. But with the inexperienced athlete, I have to be very selective with the words or with what I want to focus on, and then just drill because they just don't have the reps. And they will go, oh yeah, but I also, like, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that, and this is bad. And you're like, well, it's good that you notice, but we stick to A. We stick
E-
to A.
exactly, exactly. And not, okay, yeah, you're right, let's give you something new, so you maybe you come back again because, oh, I'm not sure you're happy there. Well, stick to it. This is the right process. This is the right principle to work on for now. And we'll, when you're ready, we're gonna move on to those. You're not wrong, but they come from, we need to do this well first. Um, no, absolutely, I couldn't agree more on that. And
Yeah,
it's tough when I think you're starting out, or and different things, um, just because you if you're in sales, right, the client's always right, that kind of idea, and it's not sales. And yeah, they might be right that those things do exist, but to become a better, we're speaking water skier, this is the process, these are the things, and the foundation of the pyramid, you got to do this first, and you got to do a little bit better before we move on to the next step.
yeah, yeah. And it's tough talk, but oftentimes it's, well, one, the talk they need to listen, and two, the talk that you have to find the courage to say and to make.
Yeah.
Um, Look, Cole, obviously you've had, and I want to ask you this very, very frankly, because I don't think I know very well, but I know you've had involvement with the Canadian national team. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about what your role is there and your experiences.
So I serve as one of the national team coaches. So we've got a staff, um, that includes, Busher and Matt and Drew and Jarrett and myself. And so we've got a staff that we do it. I do a lot of the stuff with the juniors and the junior events. Um, Sometimes Busher and I, a couple lately, it's just been me going into some of the smaller ones. And so, I look as my role when we're at big major events, like a Worlds. My job is, one, make sure the athletes have everything they need, and two, to make Busher's job easier,
Hmm.
and to work together. And so we don't have, we've got the Worlds in Malaysia. We had a huge team, 17 skiers. I might be wrong. I could be wrong. 12. I don't know. There was a lot.
Right.
Um, And so there's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of, and I think some of that stuff we talked about at UL, of the, this is better for me in this culture and that culture. I was fortunate enough to learn from team sports, but as well from Busher early on. Talk about a mentor to soak information up from when it comes to major events and planning and how to do everything. And so, how do we balance? We've got everyone here, and our job is to give them the resources as best we can to ski as to their potential. So whether that means, sitting at the Worlds and you're not actually watching that much skiing because there's a practice lake over here that someone that you've got to take a few people to watch them, whether you're coaching them a little bit or whether they've got someone else there with them that you're, you're the third person in the boat, or you're running the clock to make sure we get to the next person on time because they know how much time they've got, or you're running people back and forth to the hotel so they don't have to sit out in the heat all day. Um, all those things just are what it's not this glamorous, oh, I sit at a lake and do things. No, it's you miss half the event, but that's what it's required to help our athletes perform to their potential.
Yeah. And was Malaysia your first open worlds in that role?
As my second, so I did Paris and Malaysia, um,
Hmm.
and took a little bit more in Malaysia, because Paris was my first open worlds.
Yeah. What what was your emotional state like? Proud, nervous, excited?
I think a little bit of everything. I think
Hmm.
it's one thing for us who are, as a coach, you're sitting there, conditions aside, just at a worlds of, okay, what can I do? Did I do everything I was supposed to? Um, when they ski well, it's like a sigh of relief. Like, okay, did my job. They did theirs. Perfect. If someone doesn't ski well, okay, did I do something? What should I have done? Should I have said something? Should I not have said something? All these different things, especially when it's a big team that you're not as familiar with everyone.
Yeah.
Um, what do they need? They all have different individual needs, and how to meet them all being so different.
Right. Right. Was that something that you obviously talked about Busher as a big mentor? What maybe any nuggets that you want to share? Something that Busher told you that like kind of opened your eyes, maybe early on.
Oh, um, I think, oh, one, I always back in to my driveway into parking spots from him. He
Okay.
backs in everywhere from being a firefighter, and we always he says, don't run, walk towards a fire, don't run. We know there's a problem, but running there and panicking is only going to make things worse. And I think just the way he carries himself, and I think I met the first time I kind of remember meeting Busher. I must have been 8 as a young kid, and I think it's those feelings of I had no idea who he was. And my parents told me after, oh, that's Steve Bush. He's a national team coach. Like, I'm a shy kid. I don't say much, but how he carries himself, speaks to everyone, whether it's officials, other team captains. Like, I don't know if you can find someone who's got a bad word to say about him or who wouldn't help him because of everything he's gone above and beyond to help them with at some point.
Yeah.
And not taking those things for granted, and doing those things, um, and just how calm his demeanor is. Like, and that's something I try to emulate and work really, really hard on to try to emulate as best as I can. And I'm nowhere near close, but um,
That takes
yeah,
experience, right?
yeah,
I think even though it's more in terms of like very applied coaching, what we spoke about before, or more of like managerial slash coaching role, seems like that steadiness remains key in both roles, right? The ability to be the same, consistent, um, and open. Like uh, so be steadily in a good way, but steady, right? Not letting emotions and other thoughts overcome you and get you away from it. Um, wow, cool. So, what's in the near future for you? What's any plans ahead? Obviously, COVID, you know, but
yeah. I don't know. It kind of put a change on the whole summer and how everything goes this spring and summer, and who knows what the fall holds. Next year is going to be busy. If everything kind of runs its course and is okay with so many worlds next year. So yeah, we'll be getting ready for all of those. But yeah, ski school. Been trying to connect with more and more athletes that haven't been able to make it here, that I work with virtually somehow to keep it personal, and um, help them along and make sure they're on the right path still. Um, and not much else, I don't think. I think kind of keep going.
Yeah. Well, Cole, as you know, both from being a good friend and probably as by knowing me, I care a lot about the growth of the sport. And part of it is having committed coaches who really take their craftsmanship seriously. And I commend you for your doing that. You've been doing that for a long time, despite you're young, because more people like you would certainly help the sport to grow. So thanks a lot for doing this. Did we miss anything? Like we said everything we needed to?
I think so. I think, yeah. I don't know if I've got much else to share. I think that covers a lot of it.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that in a second chat that we might have in the near future, more things would arise. But in the meantime, thanks again for doing this. I know my listeners would really enjoy it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matteo. Keep it up. Love listening. It's been blast.
Thanks, buddy.